Ukraine just revealed something that could quietly change the battlefield, and most people might miss how big this actually is. A Swedish Saab airborne early warning aircraft, basically a flying radar station, has now been spotted operating over Ukrainian territory. And this is not just another plane flying around. This is the ASC-890, built on the Saab 340, and it's designed to see everything happening in the sky, and even parts of the battlefield in real time. Think of it like a command center in the air. It can track incoming drones, detect cruise missiles, monitor fighter jets, and then guide Ukrainian pilots exactly where to go and when to strike. Before this, Ukraine didn't really have this level of airborne awareness. They were often reacting. Now they can start predicting, and that changes everything. Russia understands this threat better than anyone, because Ukraine has spent a huge part of this war trying to take down Russia's own A-50 AWACS aircraft for the exact same reason. Whoever controls the sky's information flow gains a massive advantage, and now Ukraine is stepping into that game. This Saab system can spot low-flying threats like drones and cruise missiles much earlier, giving air defenses more time to react. But here's where it gets even more serious: Russia's glide bombs. These bombs are launched from far away, outside the range of most Ukrainian air defenses, and they've been devastating along the front lines. The real power of an AWACS like this is that it can detect the aircraft launching those bombs and help coordinate a response before the attack even happens. In simple terms, this aircraft gives Ukraine eyes where they had none before. It connects the dots between radars, fighters, and air defenses into one smart network. And in modern war, it's not just about who has more weapons. It's about who sees first, understands faster, and reacts smarter. This is a major step in that direction for Ukraine. So if you're following this war closely, keep an eye on this development, because it might not look dramatic on the surface, but it could quietly slow down Russia's offensive momentum. And if you're enjoying this kind of deep, no-fluff breakdown, make sure to like the video and subscribe, because most people watch, but only a small percentage actually hit that button. Now, here's where the timeline really matters, because this didn't just happen overnight. Sweden actually announced back in May 2024 that it would send 2 Saab 340 airborne early warning aircraft to Ukraine as part of its largest military aid package to Kiev at the time, worth around $1.25 billion. But they were very clear: this wasn't plug and play. It would take about a year to train crews, prepare maintainers, and build the ground support needed to actually use these aircraft properly. And that means everything we're seeing now in 2025 and moving into 2026, this was always the moment these planes were meant to become operational and start making a real impact. Ukraine is believed to have received 2 of these aircraft, known in Swedish service as the S100D Argus, or ASC-890. And the real magic sits on top of the plane, that long, rectangular radar pod. Inside it is Saab's Erieye radar system, and this thing is seriously powerful. It can detect targets in the air and at sea from up to around 280 miles away. The aircraft itself usually flies at about 20,000 feet, and from that height, it can track up to 1,000 airborne targets and around 500 surface targets at the same time. Just think about that for a second. Ukraine used to piece together its air picture using ground radars, fighter reports, air defense systems, and whatever was still working under constant attack. Now, suddenly, they have a single system that can see almost everything in one place in real time. And the key phrase here, the real game changer, is look-down capability. Ground radars struggle because they're blocked by terrain. Hills, forests, buildings, even the curvature of the earth, all of that creates blind spots, especially for low-flying threats. And guess what Russia uses a lot of? Low-flying drones and cruise missiles. But a radar aircraft flying high above doesn't have that problem. It looks down on the battlefield, spotting threats that would normally slip through the gaps. That alone makes it incredibly valuable. But here's where things get even more serious: the glide bomb problem. This isn't just about having a new aircraft, it's about countering one of Russia's most effective tactics right now. Russian glide bombs, especially those basic FAB bombs fitted with UMPK guidance kits, are dangerous because of how they're used. Aircraft like the Su-34 don't need to fly into Ukrainian air defenses anymore. They stay at a safe distance, quickly pop up, release the bomb,
and turn away before Ukraine can respond. And once that bomb is in the air, gliding towards its target, it's extremely hard to stop, especially when dozens are launched in waves. That's the real issue. It's not just the bomb, it's the launch platform staying out of reach. And this is exactly where an AWACS like the Saab 340 changes the equation. It can detect those aircraft earlier, track their movement, and give Ukraine a chance to react before the bomb is even released. That's a massive shift from reacting to anticipating. And in modern warfare, that difference can decide everything. So if you're watching this closely, this isn't just another aid package. It's a shift in how Ukraine sees the battlefield. And if you're getting value from these deep, no-fluff breakdowns, take a second to like the video and subscribe, because most people watch, but only a small percentage actually hit that button.
So here's the smarter strategy, and this is where things start getting really interesting. Instead of trying to stop every single glide bomb in the air, which is extremely hard, the real move is to break the chain before the bomb is even released. Find the aircraft earlier, track it sooner, guide fighters into position faster, and alert air defense systems in time. Force Russian pilots into bad situations, make them launch from longer distances, worse angles, or even cancel the mission entirely. And this is exactly where an AWACS like the Saab 340 starts proving its real value. It doesn't need to see the bomb to matter, it just needs to see the bomber. That Erieye radar on board can detect targets far out, prioritize them, and then assign those targets to fighters or air defenses inside Ukraine's layered network. And that's a massive shift. Right now, Ukraine often operates with a fragmented picture. One pilot sees something on his radar, a SAM battery sees something else, and ground controllers are trying to stitch it all together under pressure. But an AWACS pulls all of that into one clear, unified air picture. It becomes like a quarterback in the sky, directing the entire play in real time. And that matters a lot, especially against glide bombs, because Russian strike aircraft don't just appear out of nowhere. They follow routes, they stage, they approach carefully. And even if this aircraft is flying safely in western Ukraine, it can still extend that radar picture far enough to complicate Russian attack runs. Now, let's be realistic. This is not a magic delete Su-34 button. There are limits. Ukraine likely keeps these aircraft in the far west and moves them between airfields to avoid being targeted. With only 2 planes, you can't cover the entire country 24/7.
Sometimes one will be on standby for major drone or missile waves. So no, this is not a full shield over Ukraine. It's a high-value, limited asset that has to be used very carefully. But even limited use changes the game. Because now Russian pilots have to assume they might be watched earlier than before. That pressure alone forces them to adjust. Launch earlier, fly lower, stay farther back, or bring more escort. And every one of those adjustments reduces flexibility and can hurt bombing accuracy. And that's the key point. This isn't about perfection, it's about creating friction. If glide bombs become less accurate, less timely, or easier to detect, Ukraine's front lines become more survivable. That's already a win. But there's another limitation here too. To actually detect those strike aircraft, Ukraine may sometimes need to push these AWACSs closer to the front than it would ideally want, because radar range is not unlimited. You can't just sit deep in Lviv and see everything. That creates risk. Now, in a perfect scenario, the real power move would be integrating all of this with NATO standard Link 16, feeding that radar data directly into Ukrainian F-16s, Mirage 2000s, and Western air defense systems in real time. That would turn this into a fully connected network, fast, coordinated, and deadly efficient. That's the dream setup. And if Ukraine gets even close to that level of integration, then this Saab AWACS won't just be helpful, it will be a serious force multiplier on the battlefield. Now, imagine this for a second. The Saab detects a threat. That data gets pushed out. Fighters instantly see the same picture, and suddenly everything starts working together like a proper Western air defense system, instead of a patchwork held together by caffeine, stress, and pure improvisation. That's the real vision here. But there's a complication. Reports from late 2024 suggested that Ukraine's F-16s may have had Link 16, the standard NATO data sharing system, either removed or limited because of concerns it could fall into Russian hands. And as of now, it's still not fully clear how much of that connectivity Ukraine actually has. At the same time, there were reports around March 2025, right when these AWACS deliveries were lining up, that mentioned modifications being made to Ukrainian F-16s. That strongly hints that some kind of networking or integration issue was being worked on behind the scenes. So where does that leave Ukraine today? Even without full Link 16, this Saab aircraft is still a huge upgrade. It can still scan the skies, detect threats earlier, and pass that information through ground control systems. Sure, it may be slower and less smooth compared to a fully integrated NATO network, but it's still a massive step up from not having airborne early warning at all. But if Link 16, or something close to it, is actually active, then things escalate quickly. Because now Ukrainian fighters like the F-16 are no longer relying only on what their own radar sees. They're being fed a much bigger, clearer picture from a platform built specifically to see farther and manage the fight. That turns every fighter into part of a coordinated system instead of a lone hunter.
And there's another layer to this that doesn't get talked about enough. Some versions of the Erieye radar can do more than just track aircraft. They can use things like synthetic aperture radar and ground-moving target indication, basically the ability to monitor movement on the ground as well. Now, it's not confirmed if Ukraine has those exact features, but if even a limited version is active, then this aircraft is no longer just about air defense. It starts helping track troop movements, vehicles, and activity on the surface. That shifts it from a purely defensive tool into something with real operational depth. And that's where the future angle comes in. Because this isn't just about today's fight, it's about building a smarter, more connected battlefield where information moves faster than weapons. And the side that sees first, understands first, and reacts first usually wins. So if Ukraine can keep building on this, improving connectivity, integrating systems, and expanding coverage, then this Saab AWACS isn't just a one-off advantage, it's the beginning of a much bigger transformation. Now, take this one step further, because this is where the bigger picture starts to form. If Ukraine ever ends up flying Saab Gripen fighters in the future, then pairing those jets with the Saab 340 AWACS would create something very powerful, a fully tailored air defense system built to work together from day one. That's not happening right now, but it shows something important. Sweden didn't just send a plane. It may have just delivered the first building block of a much smarter, more connected air defense ecosystem for Ukraine. And Russia understands exactly how valuable systems like this are. That's why Ukraine has spent so much effort trying to take down Russia's own A-50 AWACS aircraft during this war. These platforms don't fire missiles, but they make everything else more effective. They are force multipliers. And that's also why Ukraine is going to be extremely careful with its Saab aircraft. With only 2 in service, they're not going to fly them aggressively near danger zones just to make a statement. These planes will be used quietly, carefully, probably operating further west than some people expect. Because when you have something this valuable, you don't risk it, you protect it. You treat it like gold with wings. So here's the bottom line. Ukraine's Saab AWACS is not just a new toy, it's a new layer in the kill chain. It sees farther than ground radars, especially against low-flying threats like drones and cruise missiles. It helps fighters and air defenses decide what matters most and respond faster. It makes Russian strike planning harder. And when it comes to glide bombs, it may not stop the bomb once it's already in the air, but it helps target the real problem, the aircraft launching it. That's how you start pushing back. You don't wait for the bomb to come down. You go back up the chain, find the launch aircraft early, and put pressure on it before it can even release. For most of this war, Ukraine has been forced to improvise, constantly reacting under pressure. But this system changes that. It doesn't fix everything, but it makes the battlefield clearer. It makes the sky more readable. And in modern warfare, the side that sees first usually gets to ruin the other side's plan. That's it for today, my friends. When it comes to supporting Ukraine, Sweden is clearly playing in the big leagues. If you found this breakdown useful, consider subscribing. It really helps the channel grow. Drop a like, share your thoughts below, and stay tuned, because the next few years are going to be critical for how this all evolves. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.